Welcome into the Barbecue Life. I'm your host, Kurt Mueller. We are powered by Hound Hogs BBQ Supply. You can check them out and all the great things they are doing at Hound Hogs BBQ Supply on Facebook and Instagram, and on the web at www.houndhogsbbqsupply.com. So I have got another fellow Midwesterner on the show with me here today. His name is Erik Mengel. He's with Trash Panda BBQ based out of Roland, Iowa. Erik, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So again, for our listeners, I want to point out that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take in life. And not only did one of Erik's colleagues, I should say, in Iowa, reach out and ask if he could be on the show, and he was. That's Mr. Brandt Shampoo. Then I heard from Erik, and he said, "Hey, love the show. I'd love to come on." So here we are. So I say that because I do admire those that put themselves out there and ask to be on the show. I think it's awesome stuff. So generally speaking, unless somebody's an axe murderer, of course, I'm going to say yes. But Erik, let's start with Journey. We all, if you listen to the show, I chat about Journey quite a bit, and I'm curious to hear your journey. So help us, educate us on this barbecue journey. How the heck did you get into all this craziness that we consider competitive barbecue?
Well, it started, let's see, probably 15 years ago, once I moved out and I was on my own. When I got my first apartment, my mom actually got me a cookbook that was called A Man, a Can, and a Plan. And it had, it was just basic recipes for single guys. And if it was just like, you want a beef dish, chicken, pork, it even had SpaghettiO recipes, which are actually pretty good. And that's kind of what really got just my love for cooking going. And then I just kept cooking and doing stuff. I worked in a restaurant for a little bit. And it wasn't until COVID when, couldn't do anything. So we were watching a lot of TV, and I was watching, I think it was like Discovery Plus or whatever. It had the second season of, was it Barbecue Pitmasters?
Yep.
And that, I was following around competitions, and it was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And that's when I started kind of messing around with barbecue stuff. I had a vertical barrel grill from Walmart. And at the time I was working at a fabrication shop where I decided, I'm going to turn this into an offset smoker. And so we built up a firebox, which more than tripled the weight of the actual grill. I had to counterbalance it with a sandbag on one side so it didn't tip over. And I started smoking, doing all that stuff. And then my cousin, he started doing competitions, but he was doing like the small, kind of podunk town competitions where it's like, hey, do you like barbecue? Come out and judge. And I saw he was starting to win stuff, or at least, get some calls. And I was like, I think I could do that. And then I got on Facebook and just started searching barbecue communities. And that's how I stumbled upon the Iowa Barbecue Society. And since that day, the rest is history. I've been hooked in not the cheapest hobby in the world.
That's the truth. Competition barbecue is probably the worst retirement plan I can think of. But it's a lot of fun, that's for sure. How about this name, Trash Panda? Where'd that name come from? Because that is a unique name. I like it.
Well, it started from, I really love Guardians of the Galaxy and Rocket Raccoon.
Yep.
And as I was getting more inundated with the Iowa Barbecue Society, kind of reaching out to some of the members, that's when I found out a lot of people like to cook on barrels. And well, to be honest, I couldn't just go out and buy one of the barrels because they're kind of spendy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at it and I found some stuff online. I was like, oh, I can just build those. And one of the nicknames is a trash can. And I was like, well, let's combine the two and we'll make it, Trash Panda, because here in Iowa, we got quite a few of them. And that's one of those. I took it and I absolutely ran with it.
It definitely is unique. It stands out, for sure. And I figured you would say something along the lines of, Guardians of the Galaxy, because, we all know that Rocket Raccoon is a trash panda. It's probably one of my favorite characters on that series, personally.
Oh yeah.
And for our listeners, take some time to connect with Erik. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. Pretty much any social media platform out there. It's at Trash Panda BBQ. Only difference is on Twitter there is an underscore between trash and panda. Isn't that right?
No, it's just trash underscore BBQ.
Got it. Okay. So trash underscore BBQ. We'll have that for our listeners as well in the show notes, so you guys can link up, connect with Erik. And, as you can probably tell, Erik is like a lot of folks we have on the show, very willing to connect, share information. Most all of us, I won't say 100%, but I'd say 99.9% of us that do compete came from very humble beginnings, where we may have had to manufacture our own smoker to start. So, don't ever be afraid to reach out and ask questions. I mean, I think that's what's so cool about the barbecue community. One thing I wanted to touch on is Iowa BBQ, right? So, and what I mean by that is, just in general, when somebody says barbecue in Iowa, what does that typically mean?
Well, it's just a lot of, kind of backyard family get-togethers, invite the friends over, turn the grill on, turn the smoker on, just, have a fun party, essentially.
That's right. So it's really more about people connecting, fellowship, building relationships, which is really cool. I mean, that's what, it's a big part of barbecue. So when you go to one of these barbecues at someone's house, what's on the pit? What's on the grill? I mean, what is generally considered barbecue in Iowa?
A lot of the times, you got your normal burgers, brats, hot dogs, and then, every once in a while someone will put on some ribs or pork butt.
Mhm.
But when you come to one of mine, I like to go a little above and beyond. One of my favorite things that I've smoked so far is bacon wrap pizza rolls.
Nice.
So like, you come to my place and it won't be the normal. I mean, unless you got kids, then we'll have some burgers and hot dogs, but I like to go crazy.
I love it. We'll have fun with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is barbecue. It's not that serious. It's something to have fun with, and certainly it can get serious. But I think it's interesting. We have folks on the show that are from all over the country, and barbecue means different things in different places of the country. I'm originally from St. Louis, so not too far away from Iowa. I live down in the Augusta, Georgia area, and when you say barbecue here, in this area, that generally means that's pulled pork.
Mhm.
That's what you're getting. You're getting pulled pork, and you're getting, sides, the standard sides you'd see anywhere, mac and cheese, baked beans, those kinds of things.
Oh yeah.
On the other hand, you say barbecue in Texas, and 99.9% of the time that means beef, specifically brisket, So I always found it interesting, just the different, how it varies from region to region in the U.S. and really across the world. So,
oh yeah.
Now let's talk about your setup for a second. So you mentioned you started basically on a trash can, right?
Yep.
so that's a drum for listeners that are just getting into this. Typically, when we say trash can, usually that means drum or barrel. You'll also hear that term used. And it sounds like Erik built his own, which you absolutely can do. There's kits out there that are much more cost effective than, buying it manufactured already. And to Erik's point, it's an investment. They are, I would recommend, don't shop barbecue pits and grills based on price. I think you need to, I really do think you need to evaluate the value, because if you're competing and you're cooking on the side for friends, family, and maybe you start doing some catering and vending, you're going to abuse it. And so you need something that can weather all of that. But what's your setup like, Erik? What are you cooking on when you go to these competitions?
So I'm cooking on just 4 standard barrels.
There you go. So the drums, and these are something now, when you say you made them, is this something that you bought a kit and you kind of followed the instructions, or you just made them from scratch?
I made them from scratch. I just found some barrels online that had removable lids, and then I went out to Menards and bought some black iron pipe and made the intakes, got the fire baskets off of Amazon, and pretty much just pieced it together. I mean, they're cheap and they look cheap, and it is.
Now, let me ask you this, are they effective? How
Oh
is
yeah.
it, how have you been, how your journey? So it's been it sounds like it's been about maybe a 2-year journey that you've been doing
Yep. We just
competitive
started
barbecue.
the third season of competition.
Now, and how has that been? How's that gone? Have you seen, progress, you progressing, your scores increasing, et cetera, over that time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like everything, every year I've changed. I wouldn't say I changed everything, but I mean, I tweaked what I needed to. Like if you look at my turn-in boxes from the first couple competitions to what they are now, I mean, it's a night and day difference.
Mhm.
In my first comp, when I turned in pork, all it was just a heaping pile of pulled pork, and it kind of looked gross.
Yeah,
But now I know. I mean, I don't know all the parts of it, but I mean, I got what needs to be in a normal competition box.
absolutely. That's absolutely right. And I think, I know in Iowa, it sounds like, KCBS in terms of sanctioning bodies is likely the largest one up that way, being so close to, the corporate headquarters there in
Yeah.
Kansas City. Um, so did you start on the backyard side, or did you just go straight to pro?
I started backyard because when I looked at some of the entry fees for Master Series, it it scared me because that's a lot of money be going, cooking in a parking lot for a couple hours and going home.
It's, when you put it that way, it makes it seem even more ridiculous. But yeah, you're right. And I think this is an important topic to discuss for those out there that are looking to get into competition barbecue. We got to be very real with you. And that is, and you can go straight to pro. I mean, that's exactly what we did. We,
Mhm.
we didn't do backyard. We started actually with GBA. We did a bunch of Georgia Barbecue Association.
Yeah.
Then I just got tired of cooking pork. I wanted to cook brisket and chicken. And so we made that jump. But I think it's important to note that, if you go to Master Series right out of the gate, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Just understand that you're going to be investing anywhere from, depending on how far you have to travel, you're going to be investing anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 all in per competition. By the time you factor in your gas, your food, your entry fee, and the cost of the meat, because let's be real, you're not buying the 99-cent per pound pork butts. I mean, you can,
Oh yeah.
so you're likely going to spend between I would say, again, depending on where you are in the country, maybe $500-$600 per contest for meat, plus the fee, plus any ancillary expenses that come up, gas, those kinds of things. So yeah, it is an investment. It's
Oh yeah.
absolutely an investment, but you need to know that going in. And I think Eric, you hit it right on the head. It sounds like you just said, you know what, I'm just going to start.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the only way to do it. It's not dip your toe in. It's you kind of just got to go for it.
Right. That's exactly right. And I think that's really, really important. And the great thing is, KCBS does have the backyard series, so it's for our listeners, it's much less expensive. You don't cook brisket, and we all know brisket is the most expensive cut of meat there is. That's the biggest investment you're going to make. And and the entry fees are less. So you've got that going for you, but it's a great way to get get some experience, get into the flow of timelines, figure out what they're looking for. Like you said, I think, didn't you say that you just turned in pulled pork on your first
Oh yeah. I
competition?
just plopped a pile of it in a box, and it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, why not?
Right.
And then
And it may have been fantastic.
started seeing pictures of like other turn-ins. I'm like, oh, that looks gross.
Right. It sounds to me like, though, there's one common theme here that I see amongst the guests that come on the show, and that is they're not afraid of failure.
Oh no.
And I think that's really, really admirable. What's the mindset like though for you? Because I always have a hard time explaining the mindset to people because I'm somebody that doesn't feel failure whatsoever and have failed probably a dozen times today. Um, but what's the mindset like, to just run in there with your head down, knowing that, hey, this could be a total failure. This could be a great success.
It's still it's kind of hard. It's it's hard to find that mindset. I still struggle with it occasionally because I'm super competitive, and it's just one of those. I it's kind of hard to put words to it. You just gotta figure out how to just let it go. You can be upset for the day or two, and then just kind of
Yeah.
be done with it. Because if you keep hounding on it, it's only going to get worse from there. You just gotta wipe it clean.
That's exactly right. I mean, it can, you gotta be able to celebrate your victory and then get back to work in the same way that you've got to be able to reflect on a loss, so to speak, and learn from it and, move on because, especially in the KCBS world, if you have a bad chicken turn in, you've got 30 minutes to get those ribs in. So you don't really have a whole lot of time to sit there and feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
you you got to get that meat turned in pretty quickly. Um, with the way you're cooking, so you've got the 4 drums, which is that's trendy right now. Drums really exploded onto the scene. I mean, I think the guys in your neck of the woods, south of you, Brad getting basted and
Mhm.
Tim with Blues Hog, they've done a great job really, growing that side of it and coming out with various products and whatnot. For you though, the drum, what about the drum do you like? And then on the flip side of that, what about the drums do you don't like? Do you wish you could improve on?
So with my like with my first smoker being an offset, I found out I had to check that every half hour. I
Mhm.
had to feed it because I mean, even if I went 40, 45 minutes, there was a good chance the fire was going out.
Right.
The one thing I love with my drums is once I get the coals hot, I can let that thing go for I haven't tested out how long it'll go, but I can set it at 300 and it will run for I mean at least the 6.5 hours it takes to do a brisket or a pork butt.
Right. So I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So you're running your drums at 400, is that right?
300.
300. Okay. I was going to say that's incredible. 400 is, at the end of the day, um, and this is something that it seems like it comes up every single day. I don't know. I'm assuming you're probably part of a lot of these, barbecue and smoking meat groups on Facebook, and
Oh yeah.
literally every day it's a discussion. Well, I say discussion. I use that word lightly. It's more of a shit show. I mean,
Oh yeah.
if
Oh
we're
yeah.
really calling it what it is. Um, there's always this debate over drum and offset, stick burner, reverse flow, pellet grill, kettle, prop. I mean, all these various, debates, and it really is truly like a soap opera for men for the most
Oh
part.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, because I think that one thing I've learned very quickly is that there's way too much attention paid to the smoker or the grill when really all that matters is the cook.
Yep.
And I've had great barbecue. I've had great barbecue off every type of smoker you can think of, from a homemade one that was just built in somebody's backyard all the way up to, you know, a real nice pellet to a kettle. I mean, I have 3 kettles myself. I mean, I
Hmm.
love those things. I mean, that's like the classic, right?
Oh yeah.
That's how I learned to cook, 30 years ago. And I'm curious, how did you learn? I mean, how did you learn as a, at a young age, like how to cook, or was this something later in life that you found, hey, this is my passion?
Cooking wise, I learned at an early age because like my family, they are big cookers and bakers. Like you go to grandma's house on Sunday and she has enough food to feed 50 people.
Mhm.
The barbecue side, that was kind of all on my own. I was watching, TV shows, watching videos on YouTube, and that was just one of those things. Like I was watching, I was like, that looks awesome. I want to do that, and I just put my mind to it and learned how to do it.
So, what are some of those what are some of those resources that you found really helpful, along your journey? I'm sure, YouTube, but is there anything specific that you've really kind of latched onto and, ran with from, social media or the internet?
So the one that I learned the most from is the barbecue league.
Hmm.
That one, I mean, that barbecue league is an absolute game changer because you'll go in thinking, okay, this is a good way to cook it, and then you'll watch one of these pros doing it for the last 20, 30 years, and it's like, oh, I've never thought about that. That actually makes the cook a lot easier and it makes it better.
Right. And the barbecue league, I think, is a great resource. I'm a member myself. I need to re-engage. I haven't been on there in quite some time. Totally honest. And that's the brainchild of I believe Brad Leiniger with Getting Basted and Tim Shear putting that together. And it's a great way to. First of all, it's a very low investment to make. I think it's $100 a year.
Yeah, $100, which I mean, at the beginning you're like, oh, that's kind of a lot, but the amount of knowledge that is on that website is almost invaluable.
That's right, and we'll have that in the show notes as well. So you guys listening can check that out. It is a fantastic resource, and for $100 a year, it's there's like Eric said, there's just a ton of real world practical information. Even if you say, look, I don't want to compete, I just want to be a better cook in my backyard. It's still
Mhm.
going to help you. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
still you're going to learn a ton and you're going to become a better cook just from watching the techniques and those types of things. So now for you, what's your favorite meat? So if we're looking at KCBS competition, right, you got 4 meats. What's your favorite cut of meat to cook at a competition?
I absolutely love cooking ribs.
Ribs. Why is
Yeah.
that? What about ribs? Why do you like ribs so much?
Uh, the amount of flavor that you can put on and get out of a rib is just amazing. Like, I mean, you don't even have to inject it like, you do with the bigger meats. It's one of those, you find something that's a good enough fat quality on it and put some rubs on it and spice it up with a little sweetness. And I mean, it's perfect.
Love that. Now, are you a Prairie Fresh guy, or what's the popular competition rib up there in the Iowa area?
In Iowa, it is, you'll see a lot of Prairie Fresh because we
Yeah.
do have one of their plants. It's up in North Iowa, but they got I think what Seaboard Foods is the
That's right.
parent.
Yep. And I think it also helps you guys too. If my understanding is correct, Iowa is the largest pork producing state in the country.
Yep. Four
So
four pigs for every person.
wow, that's a lot of pigs. A lot of pigs. A lot of pigs. That's crazy. So ribs. So let's talk about cooking ribs at the house because I'm not going to ask you to talk about your competition ribs. But let's talk about home ribs, right? What's your go-to at home rib recipe that you can cook with your eyes closed?
Oh, it'd have to be, I like throwing the meat church honey hog.
Hmm.
That's a go-to at home, and I'll spice it up with Heath Riles, the garlic jalapeno
Oh yeah.
rub. and then I'll add a little bit of butter to it, and then some. I've actually found my new favorite barbecue sauce is actually Kakalakis.
Nice.
Their sweet cheer wine.
Is that so? Is it heavier on the sweet, or is a little bit of heat in there?
It's more heavier on the sweet, which I like a sweeter rib.
Right. I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Midwest in particular, Missouri, Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, those areas tend to be, in general, sweeter than than like in the Southeast. It's not as sweet. Is that you think that's fair to say?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Midwest, we like our sweets.
Hey, fair point. Fair point. I've heard from several, I'm down in the Augusta, Georgia area. I've heard from several Georgia teams that cook up there that, yeah, they say we really got to load on the sweet because that's what the judges are looking for, in the Midwest area. So it's interesting, again, just to see those different dynamics play out, the various parts of the country. So just to recap there, so these at-home ribs, you're going to hit them with some Heath Ryers, Heath Ryles, garlic jalapeno, a little bit of butter, I would assume, at the wrap, and then
Yep.
what was what was the first rub that you mentioned?
Meat Church Honey Hog.
There it is, which is a great. I mean that's a if that's not on your spice rack, it should be anyway.
Oh yeah.
That's just a great all around. So you've got the Meat Church Honey Hog. You've got the Heath Riles jalapeno garlic butter, or not garlic butter, jalapeno. Yeah, jalapeno garlic butter, I guess is what it's called, or garlic jalapeno. Excuse me.
Yep.
And then you've got the butter, and you hit your tenderness mark on that. You're going to be the king of the cul-de-sac, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So a little bit of sweet, a little bit of heat with that jalapeno. Don't be too heavy-handed with the jalapeno though, because I've made that mistake a time or two. It'll sneak up on you real quick, won't it?
Oh yeah.
So let's move to something that has become, somewhat of I'm not going to say a lightning rod, but I'll say a very hotly debated subject within the competition world. Barbecue competition world, and that is the judge seating program. And this is something that, for those that are not familiar, this was something that was implemented, past tense there, about a year and a half. My understanding is it went away. I want to say, and you correct me here, but I want to say the judge seating program went away in 2019, 2020 timeframe, is my understanding.
That sounds about right.
And it hasn't come back. But for those that don't know, the judge seating program is basically a way to average out judges in terms of their scoring, so that when they are seated at a table, and there's 6 judges at a table, that it's a good what's the word? It's a good makeup of different kinds of judges. You've got veteran judges, newer judges, etc., so that you don't get what cook teams refer to as the TOD, or table of death. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, right? Because there's 2 camps, there's 2 schools of thoughts here on this. There's the camp that says, hey, we should go back to using the system that was implemented that worked, or at least in most eyes it was working. And it was getting tables set up and averaging out those judges, so that it wasn't skewed one way or the other. And then the current system, which is my understanding is a poker chip draw out of a Crown Royal bag or some sort of bag, right? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, are you in the camp of, hey, let's go back to the seating program, or hey, poker chip draw is just fine? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I judged my first competition. It would have been about 2 years ago, and I got sat with quite a few veteran judges, which I think for me it helped. It helped, at least my judging anyway. It helped me out a lot to learn the ropes quickly, and I know I've gotten the table of death before, and I've also gotten in trouble for getting the table of death, as I've made some comments on Facebook that got attention to some of the judges. And I think it's one of those you need to have a good mixture,
Right.
because if you get nothing but the older judges that have been doing this for, 20 plus years, I think they're going to forget some things that a newer guy that who, just taken a judging class within the last year, he'll know. And
Right.
it's a good blend because it's a refresher for the older veteran judges. It's a, easier curve for the newer guys. And, maybe they'll kind of be like, okay, maybe I've been judging too harshly on, just I'm just nitpicking because I can.
That's exactly right. And I think that's, at least my understanding of this is that that is, the concern amongst cook teams is that they're wanting to basically to ensure that it's, fair judging throughout.
Mhm.
And, again, it is, this is not an easy answer, right? This is not a black and white issue. I think there's a lot of gray area here.
Oh yeah.
And, you're going to hear multiple different sides. I think it's important to chat about and really just have an open dialogue. This isn't about a hotly contested debate. It's about having an open dialogue and how do we better things going forward, those types of things. But I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I think it helps to have the quote younger perspective and the old older as in like more senior perspective. um,
Yeah.
because it helps each other, right? I mean, the senior perspective, to your point, helped you when you were at a table for the first time,
Hmm.
and you made another great point when you said, well, the newer guys might they're more up to speed on the rules, any changes, et cetera, where the more senior folks may not be, and that's not anybody's fault. I think that's
Yeah.
just you know, a byproduct of time,
Oh
in
yeah.
life. But yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think that ultimately, having that set up where you can, average it out, I think, makes the most sense. So
Yeah. Well, and the another thing with that is here, it's been gone for a couple years, but one of our teams, Smokehouse 72, they put on they call it the Frostbuster, to where it's a normal competition, but it's only for about 15 teams. And what they do is during turn-ins, they actually have the cooks sit with the judges. So the judges can kind of talk about their food to the cook, and then the cook also gets a little bit of he gets to learn what they're wanting, and then it's just one of those neat comp. Well, it's not even a competition really. It's a tune up, and then you get to know what the judge is looking for, and then as the cook, you can kind of be like, hey, well, I think you're getting a little nitpicky here on this. Like, can we back that off a bit?
right. It goes back to that open dialogue, right? I mean, let's face it, most involved in this sport, the majority are men.
Hmm.
Men have egos, men have pride, right? And let's just say it's amazing what can happen when nobody cares who gets the credit.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of factors at play there. And I think the most important thing is just simply having an open and constructive dialogue. I think that's the
Oh yeah.
important constructive being the operative word there.
Yeah.
Um, having that dialogue, I think, ultimately long term just betters everybody, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I love what you said there. So, as we wind the show down, I'm curious just from your perspective, you've been doing this for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And there's a lot of folks listening to the show that want to get into this or want to go from backyard to pro. From your perspective, what are some words of wisdom for those people out there that want to get into this or make the jump from backyard to pro?
Um, it's simple. Just do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And the thing that I love about the barbecue community is everyone is so willing to help that go find a team, message someone that's, local or close to you and ask if you can come on a cook or, some pointers, because they're not going to tell you no.
Mhm.
And everyone is willing to help. Everyone. Like if you forget something, the neighbor, the guy on the other side, he's got it for you.
Right.
Just don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Ask questions. Make those connections. I love it. Powerful way to end the show. And again, for our listeners, we're chatting with Erik Mengel. He's with Trash Panda BBQ out of Roland, Iowa. Again, you guys can connect with him on social media at Trash Panda BBQ. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitter at Trash_BBQ.
And
Erik, we appreciate. Go
I'm
ahead. I'm
also
sorry.
starting up for competitions. I do a lot of streaming on Twitch for video games, and during competitions, I'm actually gonna stream my cooks.
Awesome.
So Saturday mornings, whenever comp is, I'll be there streaming it. Except for on April 1st, we had a competition with like 50-mile-an-hour winds, so I didn't do it that time.
Now, how can our listeners connect to that Twitch? Is that on your social media profiles?
Yeah. Yep. It's twitch.tv/Trash Panda BBQ.
Excellent. We'll have that in the show notes as well. And Erik, we appreciate you coming on the show and enjoy the discussion, sir.
All right. Thank you.